What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here. In this video, we're going to be going over 7 reasons to avoid the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G. Now, I actually like this phone quite a bit, so as far as things go for me, I definitely think it's a great option. However, these are 7 things that you will want to keep in mind that if you want these various features, you're not getting them with the A53 5G. So let's get started. Now, the first reason to potentially avoid this phone is if you're looking for a device that has very premium build quality. Now, the build quality is not necessarily bad for a mid-range smartphone. However, the phone is made completely out of plastic. So if you are used to using another device that's made out of either metal or glass, or maybe a combination of both, then just know that you're not getting those types of build materials here with the A53 5G. Now, the good news, though, is that despite this phone being made out of plastic, Samsung did do a really nice job making the best out of that limitation. So for example, on the back panel of the phone, I really like this finish here because it doesn't really pick up too many fingerprints. And even though the side rails in this phone are also made out of plastic, it still feels really durable, and in many ways almost kind of does feel like metal. So even though the side rails are not made out of metal, the phone still does have that appearance that makes you think it does. The second limitation that I want to point out with the Galaxy A53 5G is that there is no support for Samsung Dex. Now, Dex is essentially a desktop mode that you can put the phone in. So if you plug it into an external monitor, it essentially becomes a desktop operating system. Now, this feature is available with Galaxy Note devices and Galaxy S series devices. So the Galaxy S22, for example, does have Dex. However, keep in mind that no A series phones have ever had Dex, and the Galaxy A53 5G continues that trend by also not having that feature. So if you are somebody that is upgrading from an older Samsung flagship phone, maybe you're upgrading from a Galaxy S9 or a Galaxy S10, or even a Galaxy Note 8. You might be expecting to be able to continue to use Dex on a newer Samsung phone, so keep in mind that you're not getting that here with this device. The third reason to potentially avoid the Galaxy A53 5G is due to the speed of the processor. Now, different people have different expectations for devices at various price points. I know some people, for example, want to spend $400 on a phone and pretty much get everything. However, you're not getting the kind of processing power that you would get with a phone that is double the price, if not more. Now, the good thing is that the Samsung Exynos 1280 processor actually does do a really nice job keeping this phone performing well. So I've actually had a really good experience with the performance of the device. However, I know everybody has different expectations. So I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test here with the phone, and here are the scores that I got from that test. So I got a single core score of 742 and a multi-core score of 1910. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of how this phone compares to what you currently have. But I could definitely picture somebody with a older S-series device, like maybe a Galaxy S10 for example, wanting to upgrade, but then seeing that they'd have to pay a ton of money to get the latest S-series device. So they might consider going for a phone like this instead. So hopefully nobody upgrades to this phone to then find out that it's actually slower than what they currently have. Now, the fourth reason to potentially avoid this device is because there is no 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, for several generations now at least, Samsung has not given us a headphone jack with their highest end devices in the S series. However, the A series has often been considered the lineup from Samsung where you always get a headphone jack. Now, this time around, with the A53 5G and some other A series phones as well that were recently announced, they are not giving us the headphone jack. As you can see, there is no headphone jack to be found on this device. So if that is a feature that is really important to you, then don't buy this phone expecting it to have a headphone jack. Now, if you do want to use wired headphones, you can always go out and buy an adapter so that you can plug directly into the charging port to use the headphones through there, but definitely don't get this phone expecting to have a headphone jack on it because there is none. Now, moving on to other things that are not included with this device, and that is that there is no charger included in the box. As you can see, the box this time around is really thin, which is a good thing as far as stowing it away and everything else. However, there is no charger here. So you could use one of your current chargers that you have. However, keep in mind, to get the full 25 watt fast charging that this phone is capable of, you will have to use a 25 watt fast charger. Now, as a tech reviewer, I do have several 25 watt fast chargers, which work great with this phone. However, I also have a bunch of other chargers that are very slow relative to what this phone is capable of charging at. So all these chargers, of course, will charge the phone up, but not at a very rapid pace. So these are pretty much all useless. Like, here's an example. This charger actually is from Samsung, and it does say that it's an adaptive fast charger. However, if you look at the details on the back, which I know are kind of difficult to see in this video, but essentially it says here that it is 5 volts and 2 amps. So you actually figure out the wattage by multiplying those two together. So this is actually a 10-watt charger. So even though it says it's a fast charger or an adaptive fast charger, it's not even going to be able to charge this phone up at even half the rate that it's technically capable of being charged at. And that's especially noticeable with a device like this, considering that it has a very large battery. So this phone has a battery capacity of 5,000 milliamp hours. So that's fantastic because we're getting very good battery life with the phone. But keep in mind that you're going to want a pretty fast charger to recharge this phone, because otherwise it's going to take a really long time to fully recharge it, especially if you're starting from zero. Now, speaking of charging, this brings us into the next reason to potentially avoid getting this phone, and that is that there is no wireless charging with the Galaxy A53 5G. Now, wireless charging is a feature that is relatively uncommon with mid-range and budget devices. However, it is something that I find personally to be very helpful. I have several wireless chargers around my home, and I definitely use them with the phones that support wireless charging. Now, wireless charging really isn't something that's even that expensive to include in a smartphone. They're just choosing not to include it, because I've seen other devices that are quite a bit less expensive than this phone that do have wireless charging. So I think that proves that Samsung really could have included it if they wanted to, but they just decided not to. And I feel like part of the reason why is because they don't want to give too many features to the A53 5G, because they don't want this to take away from too many of the sales of their higher end handsets. Now, I don't necessarily think not having wireless charging is a deal breaker. However, considering that there is no wireless charging with this phone, you should definitely go out and get a 25-watt fast charger so that at least you can recharge the phone very quickly through the charging port on it. And for the final reason to avoid the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, this is really more of a bonus reason. However, I think you'll agree with me. They really should have included an S Pen in this phone, or at least given us a Galaxy A53 5G Pro or something like that that does include an S Pen. Now, it's certainly great to see that the new Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra does have an S Pen. It's great to see that we do have a flagship device with a built-in stylus, despite the Galaxy Note series going away. However, I think there's a bunch of potential for there to be an A-series phone with a stylus built in. In fact, if you've been watching my content for a long time, you probably remember a video I did about the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Lite. Essentially, it was a budget version of the Note, coming in at around the same price tag as this device. So imagine if this phone had a slot for a stylus built in. That would be a really cool feature and probably would definitely make Samsung stand out even further as one of the leaders in mobile technology. So if you do currently have a Galaxy Note device, definitely consider how important or unimportant the S Pen is to you, because you might end up missing that feature quite a bit if you end up switching to the A53 5G. But this concludes my video on 7 reasons to avoid the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G. I did already make a similar video on the channel called Galaxy A53 5G Best and Worst Things, so definitely check out that video as well if you want to learn even more about this phone. But this is Kevin here. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.